Hi, I'm BECMI Berserker and welcome to the first episode in a new series which I have called Let's Roll, which will focus on the generation and progression of each core BECMI Dungeons and Dragons character class. If you don't know what BECMI is, I strongly recommend you watch my BECMI playlist, link on the screen, where I dive into many aspects of the game and make the case why I think it's the greatest version of the Dungeons and Dragons game. Over the course of these videos, I will explore each of these character classes as presented in the Rules Cyclopedia, released in 1991. We will spend a little time looking at what each class is, that's what their purpose is and what they're capable of, before diving into character generation. Once generated, we will go up the levels, stopping here and there to examine how the class has progressed and what's changed. As I will be using the Rules Cyclopedia, I will be including the skills rules and the weapon mastery rules for completeness. If you're unfamiliar with BECMI, then you should know that this edition of Dungeons and Dragons uses the Races class feature. That is, all clerics, fighters, magic users, and thieves are human, and all demi-humans are classes in their own right. There are some expansions on demi-human options in other BECMI publications, most notably the Gazetteer series, so there is potential for demi-humans to develop beyond what I explore in this Let's Roll series. Today we're going to look at generating the first character class we come across in the rules, and that is the Cleric. We are told that the Cleric is dedicated to serving a great and worthy cause. What's important to note is that BECMI does not get into the realms of religious and ethical beliefs to any great extent, so this worthy cause could be one's alignment and philosophy, or serving an immortal whose ambitions the Cleric shares. Clerics belong to orders who share the same beliefs, and may move up the ranks of such an order as they gain experience. A cleric can cast spells, but this is only once they have achieved second level, proving themselves worthy to their cause. Most clerical spells centre on healing, protection, and divination. Clerics can wear armour and use a shield, but they are not allowed to use edged or piercing weapons, so are limited to weapons such as maces, hammers, and slings. A major ability of the cleric is to be able to turn undead, which basically means repel undead and make them fear you. Powerful clerics can even destroy multiple undead with little effort. Clerics must stay true to their beliefs or risk being penalised by their order, or an even greater power, such as the immortal they have turned away from. These penalties might include the loss of abilities or spells. Well, that's the basics of a cleric when starting at first level, so let's roll. Here's the front half of my character sheet. Let's stick the important information about a cleric here, so that I can refer to it as needed. The first bit of information we're told is that the cleric's prime requisite is wisdom. But what does that mean? Well, in BECMI, each class has what's called a prime requisite, which is an ability score that is of most importance to a particular class and conveys a benefit to experience point acquisition. What's important to note is that the prime requisite for human classes does not have a lower limit. This means that you could have a character with low prime requisite scores, and they could, theoretically, still operate as normal. However, as you can see here, a cleric with a wisdom of 8 or below is severely penalised in obtaining XP, receiving as low as a 20% penalty for having a wisdom of 5 or lower. Clearly there is no incentive to be a cleric with a wisdom this low, but if you're one of those players who likes to test things, BECMI allows you to do it. But let's see how long you last when you're in a party 3 or 4 levels higher than you. Okay, so let's put the Dungeon Master's name here, and the class and level we're going to demonstrate. Strictly speaking, BECMI character generation is straight 3d6 in order, see what you get, and choose the class that best fits those scores. However, we're looking at the cleric today, so we'll assume that the scores I rolled favoured that class. Like so. Okay, so now it's time to work out the bonus or penalty adjustment for each ability score. Okay, so I get no adjustment for my strength and intelligence scores, but I get a +2 for my wisdom. I get no adjustment for my average dexterity, but I get a +1 for both my constitution and charisma scores. What do these adjustments mean? Well, under each ability score there is a small amount of text detailing how it affects your character's interaction with the world. We won't get too much into these unless they specifically impact character generation. Right, so I've got the beginnings of a cleric, but how many hit points do they start with? Well, looking at the information in my table, a cleric's hit dice is 1d6. Going strictly by the BECMI rules, a character does not get maximum hit points at first level, so I roll my 1d6 and get 4. Let's insert that into the hit points box here. But wait, looking across at my constitution score, I get +1 to my hit points at each level I gain, so that makes my hit points 5. Let's go ahead and adjust that. The next thing I need to do is add my cleric's saving throw scores to this sheet. In BECMI, saving throw scores are determined by class, as shown on this table, so all we need to do is transfer these numbers onto my sheet. So Death Ray or Poison is 11, Magic Wands is 12, Paralysis or Turn to Stone is 14, Dragon Breath is 16, and Rod, Staff or Spell is 15. I did a video on BECMI saving throws if you would like more information on these numbers and what they mean, available from the link on the screen or in the description. Let's quickly turn our attention to languages. Each character starts with at least some understanding of what's referred to as the common tongue. This is basically shorthand for the dominant local language. If you have a well-developed campaign, you may expand on the languages of your nations, but for now we'll just go with common. As you can see on this languages table, due to my cleric having an intelligence of 9, they have 2 languages. The rules state that for this level of intelligence, the languages are common and the character's alignment tongue. In BECMI, you may communicate using a language associated with your alignment, but this alignment language does not have a written form. So what is my alignment language? Well, I don't know. I haven't chosen my alignment yet, so let's do that. Alignment in BECMI is limited to a choice of just 3: lawful, neutral, and chaotic. A lawful person is referred to as a protector, someone you might call a team player, someone you can depend upon. A character of the lawful alignment is most likely to be good. A neutral character is self-interested but will work with the group to serve their own ends. A chaotic character is unpredictable and untrustworthy. Got a chaotic thief in your party? Watch your purse. They're not always evil, but when they run off down the tunnel with the party's gold whilst you're left facing an angry goblin horde, then it feels like a pretty evil thing to do. My cleric is going to be lawful. They have an optimistic view on life and like to help those in need. So let's put lawful down in the alignment space and also in the language space, covering off the 2 languages that they speak. Okay, so my cleric is shaping up well. The combat section at the bottom is the same for all starting classes and just relates to the number needed to hit a particular armor class. We'll pay more attention to this as this character levels. So before we move on from this part of the character sheet, let's give my cleric a name. Let's use the one from the basic red box when introducing new players to the game, and call this cleric Clarion, together with the portrait offered in that set. There you go, meet Clarion, Sister of the Blessed Kindness. I'll leave it up to you to decide what that kindness might be. Okay, Sister Clarion of the Blessed Kindness is shaping up nicely. Now it's time to turn over the character sheet and insert some further details, specifically information regarding her Turn Undead ability, skills she may have acquired before adventuring, a space for spell memorization when she achieves spells, and details about Clarion's weapon mastery. Let's take a moment to speak of a cleric's Turn Undead ability. Turning Undead is the ability to repel, or turn, an undead creature away from you, essentially making it afraid of approaching you. As a cleric becomes more powerful, this turning becomes automatic for weaker undead, and can even destroy them. Turning Undead basically works by consulting this table, and cross-referencing the undead type encountered with the cleric's level. If a dash is shown, then that undead is too powerful for the cleric to turn. However, if a number is shown, 2d6 is rolled, and a result equal to or greater than this number results in the undead being turned. If there are multiple undead, the player rolls 2d6 again to determine the number of hit dice of undead they have turned, resulting in a minimum of 1 creature. There is no limit on the amount of turning attempts a cleric can make, but undead that resisted a cleric's turning attempt may not be turned by that cleric until a future encounter. The timing is unspecific, so you can play it by ear. The information highlighted here details what happens when a T or D is shown on the table. A T meaning an automatic turn, and a D meaning the undead are automatically destroyed. A number of d6 are still rolled to determine the amount of hit dice turned or destroyed, but this can improve up to 4d6 depending on the cleric's level. So let's get back to Clarion's character sheet and record the information for a first level cleric. Clarion is currently only able to turn a skeleton, zombie or wight, with each one progressively harder to succeed against. This will change as we go up the levels. Now let's take a look at skills. Skills in BECMI are an optional rule, but I will include them here. Each character starts with a minimum of 4 skills, plus a character's intelligence adjustment. Clarion's intelligence adjustment is 0, so she starts with the standard 4. An extra skill is obtained for every 4 levels a character gains. We'll see how this works as Clarion climbs up the levels. In the meantime, Clarion chooses alternate magics, craft leather, escape, and persuasion, and these are recorded on the sheet along with their relevant ability score value, which must be rolled under to succeed in a skill check. I have a spell section on this sheet, but Clarion has no spells as yet. For those of you unfamiliar with BECMI, you may notice that the spell levels here only go up to level 7. This is because there are only 7 levels of clerical spells in BECMI. I'm not going to delve into equipping my character or determining their wealth, as there's no point. So let's jump straight into weapon mastery. Of course, Clarion is only a first level cleric, but when using the weapon mastery system, each character starts with a basic mastery in a number of weapons, and are unskilled in the rest. As you can see here, Clarion starts with a basic knowledge of just 2 weapons. She chooses the warhammer and the sling, as both are non-edged weapons. We'll record them in the weapon mastery section, along with the stats associated with just having a basic skill. As you can see here, Clarion may attempt to improve her expertise with these weapons approximately every 3rd level, or she may just elect to have a basic skill in a new weapon, depending on her adventuring experience. Okay, so that's our first level cleric, complete except for adventuring gear. We're now going to accelerate her development and make her 10th level overnight. The immortals are smiling, and clearly she's very good at whatever kindness she's giving. She suddenly has 300,000 experience points, and there are numerous changes that need to happen on this sheet. First, let's look at her saving throws. She's now 10th level, so we can refer to the correct numbers on this table and copy them to the sheet. Next, we'll update her hit roll chart, again consulting the numbers appropriate to her level and updating them here, dropping her THAC0 from 19 to 15. There's one more thing to update here, and that's Clarion's hit points. Let's consult the cleric's hit dice information again. As you can see, Clarion gets 1d6 hit points per level up to 9th level, and she may apply her constitution adjustment to this total. However, as she is now 10th level, she does not roll a hit dice for that 10th level, and also does not get her constitution adjustment either, instead only getting +1 hit point for every level above 9th level. Clearly, hit points are lean pickings at higher levels. I roll 8d6 for Clarion, adding another 8 for her constitution adjustment, getting a total of 40. Adding the 1 hit point for 10th level makes this 41, and adding this to the 5 hit points Clarion had at 1st level makes a grand total of 46. Let's use this figure to now update Clarion's hit points on the character sheet here. Now let's turn the character sheet over and update the items there. Clarion's turn undead scores are updated by referring back to the chart and getting the new figures. We can see that this ability has increased significantly in power. We'll copy these scores over and put them on the sheet. As you can see, Clarion can now destroy 2d6 hit dice of any undead up to a mummy in power, just by making a turning attempt. Always have a cleric in the party, just saying. Okay, let's have a quick look at skills. Clarion gains another skill for level 5 and 9, so she chooses Mysticism and Ceremony, adding the relevant ability score total as well for the check. Now on to spells. Clarion is well past 2nd level when she first obtained spells. We can consult the cleric progression chart to obtain the number of spells a 10th level cleric may memorize and record the numbers on her sheet as so. Clerical spells are learned every morning and selected from a list of what's available. Multiples of a spell must be learned if the character wishes to cast it more than once. A cleric can only memorize a maximum of each level, as shown on this character sheet. However, a cleric does not have to memorize reversed versions of spells, as a magic user must, being able to reverse a spell as required when casting. For instance, being able to cast Darkness instead of the memorized Light when required. It doesn't really serve any purpose to list Clarion's clerical spells any further than what's here, so let's move on to weapon mastery. So according to this weapon mastery table, Clarion had 3 more weapon choices by the time she reached 9th level. Therefore, I'm going to say that she never diversified her knowledge of weaponry beyond her warhammer and sling. So let's have her use 2 of her choices to become an expert with the warhammer, and 1 choice to be skilled with the sling. As this is all hypothetical anyway, we'll say she succeeds in all her training and applies the results to this sheet, as so. If you're not sure what all these numbers mean, I go into weapon mastery in my video on the master rules, link on the screen and in the description. As you can see, although Clarion is not a fighter, she is becoming a formidable melee opponent. So that's Clarion at 10th level. In terms of further development up the levels for the Cleric, this occurs as an increase in the turning undead and spell abilities, although Clerics may also build a stronghold from level 9 and attract numerous followers, perhaps even running a faith-based dominion. We'll not go into that detail, but we'll just indulge in one more thing. Clarion now stands on a high pinnacle of the Worm's Teeth range. Her immortal patron begins to coalesce before her, and she suddenly realizes that she is taking her last mortal breaths before being accepted into the heavens. However, let's look at 36th level Clarion before she takes those final steps into the strange embrace of her immortal. I won't go into the detail like I did before, let's just look at the updated character sheet and marvel at her power. We can see that her final hit points reached 72, far lower than what might be achieved in a modern version of the Dungeons and Dragons game. We can also see that all her saving throws have a value of 2. As for her hit roll chart, the numbers with the dagger symbol next to them mean that on a hit, that number is added to the damage. Also, values like 0 and 1 can still hit as long as a natural 1 is not rolled. Clarion's turning ability is extremely dangerous to undead. She can destroy any undead up to a lich and has nothing to fear from them. She has gained 6 more skills, including how to ride a dragon. She is able to have 63 spells memorized, 9 at each level, and she is a Grand Master of both the Warhammer and the Sling, having stuck with these all through her adventuring career. Clarion is clearly a powerful woman, and that's without doing any exploration of the adventuring gear she potentially has. She seems a cleric most deserving of immortality. Perhaps the Sisters of the Blessed Kindness now have one of their own to worship. So that's been a rather extensive first episode of Let's Roll, probably because so much of what I covered had to be explained in more detail. In future episodes, I may refer viewers to this video as a primer, just so that I can cut back a bit on the detail. That said, some classes will need further exploration at higher levels, such as the fighter and the choices of path that they can take. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this first episode of Let's Roll. Please give it a like if you did indeed like it, and please hit the subscribe button if I've earned your future attention. If you'd like to thank me further, you can buy me a coffee, link on the screen. Otherwise, I'm BECMI Berserker. Keep making your saving throws, and I hope to see you back here soon.